now come to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Burkhart, City Attorney, Chief of Staff. Roll call for the regular meeting of March 9th, 2020. Councilwoman Abno. Here. Councilman Barton.
Here.
Councilwoman Roscoe.
Here.
Councilwoman Talley. Here. Councilman Wadsworth.
Here.
Councilwoman Webb.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Yeah, here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you.
The agenda for the regular meeting, amended agenda, please, excuse me, is as follows. Number 1, agenda. Number 2 is minutes. Number 3 is petitioner. Number 4 is chairperson's report. Number 5 is mayor's report. Number 6 is clerk's report. Number 7 is treasurer's report. Number 8, public comment. Number 9, unfinished business. Number 10, new business. Number 11, warrant. Number 12, communication. Number 13 is adjournment. A motion is in order to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved to accept the amended agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been motioned by, motion by Ms. Talley, supported by Ms. Abdo for approval of the amended agenda as presented. Ms. Talley,
Yes.
Abdo,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Wadsworth? Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
I was gonna yell here.
Ms.
Yes.
Roscoe?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Number 2, minutes, approval of minutes from the regular meeting held on March 2nd, 2020.
Move for March 2nd, 2020.
Support.
It's been motioned by Mr. Wadsworth, supported by Ms. Webb. Approval of minutes from our regular meeting held on March the 2nd, 2020. Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
2B, approval of minutes from the special meeting study session held on March 2nd, 2020.
So move for approval of minutes for the special meeting study session held March 2nd, 2020.
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Abdo, supported by Ms. Talley, for approval of minutes for study session held on March 2nd, 2020. Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Under petitioner number 3, we have 3 items, action items. Petitioner A is SPR 2020-004, Ecorse Commons Preliminary Condominium Plan. At the February 19th, 2020 meeting, the Planning Commission respectfully recommends to City Council the approval of SPR-2020-004, Ecorse Commons Preliminary 2-Unit Industrial Condominium Plan. We have petitioners Michael Brock and David Rickard here to present on behalf of petitioners.
Good evening. Michael
evening.
Brock with Hennessy Engineers, 13500 Southgate. Yeah, we're here to seek approval, I guess, for an industrial condominium plan tonight. We could build the buildings both on the same property. However, just doing the industrial condominium would be able to, I guess, we could either lease them both out, maybe sell one off if needed. So there's a certain deal of ownership with that. Ecorse Commons is on the north side of Ecorse Road, in between Wayne and Cogswell, right beside the GM facility over there. This property used to be the GM Tech Center at one time before they demolished the building. So we're looking at trying to redevelop that site and create a industrial condominium out of it.
question. Mr. Wadsworth?
And we're talking about two buildings that are already up?
No, they're not constructed yet.
Because I thought it was vacant, it's vacant land right next to it.
Yes, there's an old building pad there right now where the GM Tech Center was demolished. They took the building down, but left the building pad, so that'll be removed.
Because I
as
thought I
part
seen
of the
vacant, all right,
development.
fine.
Chad?
Yeah, Ms. Abdo?
Yes, I read in the plans where you're paying in lieu of a sidewalk. Isn't that an area where we would benefit having a sidewalk for people walking up and down Ecorse Road rather than paying money in lieu?
I know that during the planning process, that did come up, and that was a big point. There's some issues with the floodplain and floodway and the widening of Ecorse Road in order to get a sidewalk over there. And it was agreed upon in the planning commission that that money would be better off spent at different places of the city rather than along Ecorse Road.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Any other comments from?
John, if I can, isn't he, where's Carol? Isn't he putting the money in?
Come up to the,
escrow for
my,
future
Kara,
sidewalks?
come up to the,
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Jessica Caters with OHM. We looked at the feasibility of a sidewalk in this area, knowing that the right-of-way would require them to put the sidewalk back in where the floodplain gets wider, and knowing that the plans for Ecorse Road may include widening of the road at some point, we didn't feel that the pedestrian facility would necessarily be in the right place with any increase or widening of the road. The crossing of the drain would also be alleviated if the road was widened and the culvert was extended rather than putting in a pedestrian bridge, which was rather extensive in order to cross the drain. I can't remember how wide the bridge would have to be, over 100 feet.
Yeah.
So in regards to the usage of it right now, based on what could possibly happen if the county were to widen it, we had recommended that the in lieu of be placed in the sidewalk fund at this point, and the in lieu of would allow for payment of whatever Romulus's portion of the widening would be to include a pedestrian facility if Ecorse was widened at some point by the county.
So I guess my question, we've got a sidewalk ordinance, so money will be put aside for the future time
Correct.
where a sidewalk could go in.
Correct. So
That was
it
my
was
question.
around $53,000 to put aside for both the sidewalk and to extend the culvert in order to carry a pedestrian facility across the bridge, or across the drain.
All right, fine, thank you.
Ms. Williams?
You said it would be 50?
It was around 53,000. 50
So have you spoke with the county to any idea?
The applicant did reach out to the county, and the county did tell them that they would have to put any facility back by the right-of-way line, which it's not in line with anything else that's already on Ecorse Road. And then it would also put them at the widest point of the drain for the crossing. So if the county were to widen that area of Ecorse Road ever, the facility wouldn't necessarily be viable at that point. It would be ripped out and replaced when the county came through to do their widening, if they were to widen. And they have not stated that they have the widening on a future projects right now, but knowing that they possibly could be widening that, and knowing that the user, there's not a user right now, that there's not a goat path, there's not a pedestrian, evidence of pedestrians crossing across that path, or the parcel right now.
Well, I do know there's several employees that work at the GM plant that lives in the modular homes right there at Codswell and Ecorse Road. And so once they cross over Codswell, they're walking at the edge of the street once they pass that one building that's on the corner, then they walk on the edge of the street to get to the GM plant. So if the building was gonna be there, to me, it would make more sense to go ahead and put a sidewalk where they can continually walk on the sidewalk to get to the plant.
And they're walking on E-course, on the north side of E-course right now.
Yes.
It'd be down a long ways.
It's all wetlands right now, next to the road. So if they're using the road, they're right on the shoulder at this moment. And I guess we hadn't seen the evidence of that being there, that the pedestrians are using that area. It's something that can get looked into further, but if I'm incorrect, is that something that the PC has already motioned on, resolved upon?
Who have?
The planning commission already resolved upon allowing the in lieu of sidewalk contribution. That's under the planning commission's purview.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Oh, I just had one
Ms. Webb?
question. You mentioned tenants.
Yes, so those buildings can either be leased out because the developer will own the buildings, or there's a possibility, you know, by doing this industrial condominium plan, there's a possibility to sell buildings or both if, you know, if they need to. You know, if they have somebody coming in, a customer that wants to purchase the building, they would have that option to do that.
So Carol, all of this would apply to the tenant or the future owner of that property?
Yes, it would. There'll be a master deed that goes along with this that you will see when it comes in for final condominium plan.
Okay.
Hopefully at final condominium plan, we might know a little bit more about who the tenants or the users are.
Okay.
So the buildings will be much further along, but you will indeed see a final condominium plan with a master deed.
Thank you.
Any other comments? More comments from the council?
If not, I'll make that motion to accept SPR 2020-004 for the E-Course Commons preliminary condominium plan.
It's been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Mr. Wadsworth, for SPR 2020-004, E-Course Commons preliminary condominium plan. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Tally?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, under petitioner 3B and 3C, both pertain the same. And we have petitioner Anthony Antone Joyan Benoitwick Acquisitions LLC. Under petition 3B, based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission, a request to approve the first reading of the zoning map amendment and associated conditional rezoning and development agreement for RZ-2020-001 for PFG Romulus to conditionally rezone 60 acres of property, parcel ID number 80-038-99-0002-702 from RC Regional Center to M1 Light Industrial. We have Brad Strader, MKSK Planning Consultant. He will present tonight.
Good evening, Council. I think just to start off this process, I was asked to just give an overview of a little bit of background, especially for the audience, that this may all be new, and a little bit on the request tonight and information and some of the resources available before you hear from the applicant. But on behalf of your consulting and city staff team, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have after the applicant's presentation. Just I'll try to be fairly brief. This is a large area in the city, the Vining Road interchange area, that for about 20 years has been planned for what was termed regional center development. Regional center, as you know, but some watching may not know, was going to be entertainment, commercial uses, restaurants, technology, research, a big host of uses. And the city had made a lot of attempts working with different property owners over the years to have that type of development approved in construction. There were a number of proposals over the years. Some made it to the approval stage, but nothing was built. Racetrack and conference centers and outlet malls, a lot of different uses, until Amazon came in and was the first actual development in the Vining Road area. The city had for the last few years, tried to figure out what was the hindrance to having the desired development occur. So the city hired a market consultant out of Indianapolis to look at the market because they were hearing from property owners and developers that there just wasn't enough market for regional center uses to fill up the whole 300 plus acres, and that maybe we needed to scale back the regional center and look at other types of uses. So the city's market consultant said the real demand was for warehousing, logistics, light industrial, office, and other types of uses. And even though there was some demand for regional center or commercial uses, it was probably more clustered around the interchange because of the visibility and so forth, and accessibility to the high traffic volumes. So at that point, the city began to start a process to look at its master plan for the area and the zoning for the area. And the Planning Commission Council changed the master plan to open up the list of uses to allow a wider array of uses, but not higher intensity industrial, but lighter types of industrial and commercial and so forth, and give another option. So the whole area remained zoned regional center, but some additional uses were allowed for the areas north of Wick Road primarily. So as that was all going on, Amazon came in, and Planning Commission and then City Council approved Amazon as a conditional rezoning, and that project was built. And I think after Amazon, that spurred another look at the planning and zoning for the area to say, well, now that we have Amazon there, do we need to relook at the uses that are allowed and consider what are some lessons learned from Amazon? Around that time, Kajoyan, the property owner for the 60 acres tonight, submitted a concept plan that had 3 industrial buildings. It was a very basic plan, 6 driveways and so forth. And the staff, we had meetings with them, and the staff said, this is not consistent with the Council and Planning Commission's vision or the master plan. So Kajoyan withdrew that application. Months later, Kajoyan submitted a warehouse called Medline. Some of you may remember that. And Medline went through the Planning Commission, a number of meetings with the Planning Commission, but never made it past the Planning Commission because of concerns with architecture and landscaping and truck traffic and so forth. Many of the same concerns that the council expressed to the Planning Commission at a joint meeting. So that submittal was withdrawn. So Kajoyan is coming back tonight with their 3rd proposal in the last, I guess, 2.5 years, which did go through the Planning Commission, had meetings, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. So that's kind of where we are. The Planning Commission thought was that some type of warehousing distribution would be appropriate, but only if there's higher quality architecture, higher quality landscaping, open space, and real focus on the number of trucks and truck routing. I think some of the same objectives that the council would have. So the petitions that Kajoyan is presenting tonight, and they'll cover in more detail, is to have a conditional rezoning for 60 acres north of Smith, east of Vining, and then a special land use for the 14 acres in the middle for PFG Vistar. And it's a special land use because the size of the building at 165,000 square feet is more than 80,000 square feet. So any building over 80,000 square feet comes to the council as a special land use. So it meets all the standards in the ordinance. The reason it's before you as special land use is because of the size of the building. So again, something you're familiar with, but maybe not the audience. What is a conditional rezoning? So conditional rezoning is something that was amended in the Michigan state law just a few years ago that allows an applicant to come in and make a request for rezoning, but they can offer conditions to you to go over and above the ordinance standards. In this case, they're asking for M1 because the current zoning doesn't allow warehousing. So asking for M1, but they're offering conditions in a written agreement that Jim Tam, the city special counsels here, and Steve Hitchcock can comment on, but they're offering things to the city in return for M1 zoning. One of the conditions they're offering is to prohibit some of the more intensive M1 uses that would otherwise be allowed in M1 elsewhere in the city. Number 2, they're providing a concept plan that shows how the overall site would develop, and site plans would come back to council, and special land uses or special land uses would come back to council. Site plans would come back to the Planning Commission for the development on that site, but then they're also providing a site plan for PFG for the center 14 acres. And as part of that site plan and special land use package, and in this conditional rezoning agreement, they're making offers to the city as part of the rezoning that would not be required of M1. One of those is architecture. They looked at the draft Vining Road overlay standards for architecture, and they're generally meeting those. And you've got the reports in front of you, or Jessica Caters from OHM is here to comment on that after you hear from the applicant. They're providing higher amounts of landscaping and larger plant sizes. They're providing additional screening of bay doors. They're providing open space and amenities on the site plan. They've provided a traffic study for trucks, which we know is really critical here, that shows the number of trucks that this particular use will generate is similar to or slightly less than a lot of the RC uses, what we would expect with RC uses. And they've set forth all these offers or conditions as part of a rezoning. So that's a little bit background, just a reminder of what's a fairly complicated, I guess, submittal. It's a conditional rezoning for the full 60 and a special land use for the 14 acres for the PFG Vistar project. So with that background, if you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer them now, or else we could hear from the applicant and go from there.
Mr. Wadsworth?
One question, I've been here a couple of weeks and I've seen companies come and go. Did this company, after 4 or 5 years, leaves for some reason? I hope it doesn't. Does it give the next occupant M1 do whatever he wants?
Know that, and that could be a question for them to address in Mr. Tam, but there are restrictions in the conditional rezoning.
And I'm not
agreement.
wishing that they come and go either, but I'm just,
They would be obligated to meet all the conditions in the conditional rezoning. So the offers that have been made would be, they'd have to either meet or they'd have to come back to amend the conditional rezoning.
it wouldn't go back to RC?
It wouldn't automatically go back to RC, correct?
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
I know we met a month and a half ago about this, and I was under the impression we weren't going to touch the RC area, that the overlay area, we were going to allow warehousing, and because a food distribution person was interested, but I was under the impression we weren't going to deal with the RC area. It was going to go for the rest of the area.
Yes, so this is, and I probably didn't explain that well, so we did, we've had discussions with council on the development in this area and so forth, and so there was amendments to the overlay that are in process with the planning commission that would allow warehousing and distribution just on the east side of Vining Road, and so this is in the area that the overlay would be amended to allow warehousing, but the rest of the RC, so west of Vining Road and everything south of Wick Road would remain RC and wouldn't allow this type of use. So this type of use would only be allowed in the overlay east of Vining and a little bit north of Wick Road. But the Wick Road frontage and everything south of Wick Road would remain RC. And then the areas west of Vining Road would not allow warehousing. They would be in the overlay but not allow warehousing.
You made a statement that they are generally meeting the overlay standards. Shouldn't they definitely meet all the overlay standards?
Yeah, so the conditional rezoning, they have to make the offers, so we can't condition it, but there's 2 exceptions. One is the number of dock doors, so they have 21 dock doors, and the overlay district is drafted right now they have 28, sorry, and the overlay would only allow 21. And so their offset of that is they've agreed to extend the landscaping along the north side of Smith Road off the PFG property, and they'll show you that in the illustrations, extend it east to screen the views of the dock doors, because the main reason that the ordinance restricted the number of dock doors was concerned about the views of the dock doors. So that was, they don't meet that standard fully, but we feel mitigated it by adding landscaping past their frontage. And the other dimensional thing they didn't meet was the height. So the height that they're at is above what M1 would allow, so they'll need a variance, but the height that they're at would be allowed in the overlay. So in one way, they're within the overlay, but they're not meeting M1 for height. But the only overlay standard we found that they don't meet is the number of dock doors, but again, they've mitigated that. They've made 3 or 4 sets of revisions to the architecture to meet the standards, we believe the standards of the architecture that are in the overlay now.
One of the concerns I have is that I hear about all the landscaping. Is there anything, or can there be put anything in there that they must maintain that landscaping? Case in point, look at Amazon on Northline. Their landscaping is half dead. The other Amazon, it's not what it draws in the picture, because there's nothing that says they have to maintain it.
So that's so one of the provisions of conditional rezoning, and I don't mean to step into the attorney's area here or the applicant, but you can't require conditions, but you can express your concerns, and the applicant can say, I heard your concern about landscape maintenance, and we will agree to offer that as a condition. So one thing you can do after the presentation or your discussion with the applicant is express your concerns, and they would have the opportunity to say, we'll add a condition. And if they added a condition, the attorneys could look through it administratively and make sure that it has enough teeth. So if that would be a concern of you or others, you could express that and see if they have a response.
That is my concern. If I want my vote, I'd like to see the landscaping maintained. It should be, yeah.
Now, you said this particular building will have 21 docks,
28.
28? Amazon came, and I remember when they came, they promised that the traffic would be directed from E-course or from Vining to 94. What promise do this company offer to make sure that that traffic is not additional traffic on E-course Road? Because right now, E-course Road is ridiculous with trucks.
And we have expressed the results of Amazon and the concerns of council that I've heard from many of you in Planning Commission. So I'll let the applicant, they have their traffic engineer here, we have ours, and they can tell you what the number of trucks they have and what they're gonna do to help direct the trucks to just use the Vining Road interchange. So hopefully they'll answer that, and if not, we'll come back and give you our thoughts. And that could be another case where you could say, this is our concern, and they may be able to add something about routing into the development agreement.
Even if they say that, even if they put it in writing, who's out there making sure it doesn't happen? That's the issue, you know, because you can put anything in writing, but who's gonna make sure they patrol to make sure they don't? And with Amazon, no one's out there. So, thank you.
I'm not the person to answer that, but I understand.
Bill?
Others here can answer that later this evening.
I've got two questions. This is what the building will look like.
Yes.
It's gonna look, all right. Number two, what is the product that's gonna be in this
I'll let
building?
I think their
all right, too far
operators are
ahead,
here,
all
and
right.
they'd rather explain to you
Go ahead.
their
Okay,
business
fine.
plan.
John? through
Yes,
the
Ms.
chair.
Webb.
Yeah, I'd like to hear and see the presentation, but one thing I'd like for you to think about, you're asking us to grant a conditional rezoning, but you stated that they're not required to do a conditional, but yet and still you want us to grant them a conditional zoning. So-
They are
but
required,
once-
they are required to adhere to the offers that they make.
Yes, well,
Yes.
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
All right, thank you. And if you have questions for any of us, we'll be happy to answer them during the applicant's presentation or afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Antone with the Kajoyan Companies. Thank you for your time. We have our entire team here. I won't waste your time in introducing everybody, but rest assured, everyone from architecture to traffic consultant is here and ready to present if need be. As Brad mentioned, we own the 60 acres immediately south of Amazon, so north of Smith Road. And I was fortunate enough a couple of years back to sit on the board that the mayor asked me to be a part of when the group from Indianapolis came in to study the whole area and to give our thoughts and to bring our experts to the table. It was a very worthwhile experience because we really were able to learn what the city wanted to see in this area and what they didn't want to see. We learned very quickly that they didn't want too large of buildings, and so we've shaped our mindset and our marketing toward that end. They didn't want to see docks on Smith Road, so we shaped it to that end, and we're facing the docks either east or west, but particularly away from the main traffic along Smith Road and Vining Road. As Brad mentioned, we came forth with Medline. It didn't go through. Vistar, PFG Vistar, has been a tenant of ours in Van Buren for about 14 years. They're a $30 billion company, and they need to grow. They're essentially in 94,000 square feet. We're taking them, we want to build a building for them of 165,000 square feet. They want to bring 100 employees to Romulus. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to, and in particular, as it relates to traffic, we heard both the Planning Commission and the City Council loud and clear that the traffic needs to stay off E-course and needs to go directly on Vining to 94. Mr. McFarland from PFG Vistar is going to explain exactly how that gets accomplished, and I think you'll be satisfied with that. In addition to that, PFG Vistar is a very low traffic user. There's only going to be 40 trucks in, 40 trucks out per day. So that is another strong allure for this company to come to Romulus, and I think that you'll find them to be very municipal friendly, if you will. So with that, before we get into architecture and civil engineering, I'd like to introduce Larry McFarland from PFG Vistar to explain to you exactly what their company does.
Good evening. I'm Larry McFarland, the local Vistar president. I guess really to start out, I'd like to answer Mr. Wadsworth's question. What do we do? What is Vistar? Said earlier that we are part of a Fortune 100 company that is Performance Food Group, and they have about 130 warehouses across the United States. We actually have 4 warehouses located in Michigan. 3 of them are Vistar logoed companies, and 1 of them is a Performance Food Service company. We have the 94,000 square foot building right now over in Van Buren that we are screaming for space. It's about 4 feet too low, and we are at the point now where we can't add any additional sales. To the point where we actually have a sister OPCO in Ohio that's delivering product into our marketplace because we can't handle the additional number of items that we need to carry to handle that business. We're not a manufacturer. We actually we buy truckloads of product from names that you know, Frito, Kellogg's, Pepsi, Coke. Our guys at night will take those pallets of product that are in our warehouses and they will go through and customize the orders for our downstream customers. And you all know who our downstream customers are. If you've ever been to a theater, any theater in Michigan, I don't believe there's a theater that we don't service. You walk into the theater, the cups, the bags, the popcorn, the oil, the candy, everything that you buy in the theater comes from our Vistar Michigan location if you're in a Michigan theater. Dollar Tree stores. The larger Dollar Tree stores all have coolers and freezers at the back of their store. All of the item that's in those coolers comes from Vistar Michigan and is delivered by our drivers. If you ever stayed at a hotel, you'll notice now that the select service hotels all have these snack bars in the front with the chips and the sodas and whatnot. All that is delivered by our Vistar drivers in the state of Michigan. We handle a lot of the concessions for the stadiums. Little Caesars, America, Ford Field are some of our larger stadium customers, although we do the little leagues and even ballparks and minor leagues across the state. Another venue that we hit is the big box stores. So like you go to a Home Depot or to a Lowe's, Best Buy, all of that candy that's in the front of the store is Vistar supplied. We have 12 tractors and 12 refrigerated trailers. We're a very, very high density company. You won't see us with a lot of short trailers. We pack those trailers like top to bottom, front to back, which allows us to reduce actually the number of vehicles that we have. And to talk about how we manage the routing of those trucks, every one of our trucks has on board a PeopleNet computer system that we track our drivers with. So when our drivers go out of our building, they're on a route that we assign and that we determine what that route looks like and the order that they're supposed to deliver those customers. That is live time, it's live data. So we're able to not only see where the truck is going at any particular point in time, we can go back and look at a route that was taken at the end of the day. And we hold our truck drivers to standards just like some of the other large companies do. And one of the things we look at is, are they following the appropriate route? Can I tell you we'll never have a truck on eCourse? We have a couple of customers on eCourse, so we absolutely would have to use eCourse for those 2 accounts. Beyond that though, the easiest way in and out is gonna be going down to 94. And for all of our inbound freight, which comes from, mostly other states, they're gonna drive up to 94. They're gonna drive up Vining. That would be the quickest, easiest, fastest way for them to get in and get out. We really need to have a 165,000 foot building. It's important for us. We're at 62 employees right now in Van Buren. Our growth really just in the last year now has almost stopped. We have a lot of sales right now that we will immediately be able to add as soon as this building is complete, which means we'll be able to add some additional employees. And our goal is to get to 100 employees in a short period of time.
Mr. Chairman, I one for Mr. McFarland. Now, those drivers, those are also your drivers.
Our drivers.
So opposed to other businesses where they have contract people, which is much more difficult to control. These are their employees that can direct those routes that they can monitor.
I've been the president for 15 years. We have never had a temporary driver behind the wheels of our truck.
Thank you.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Just one more question. These are like vendors? I mean, the truck drivers, these are their routes?
No, these are,
How big are their vehicles?
our trucks
The
are.
ones that leave to go to the Shows or Lowe's or Home Depot?
So actually, the Lowe's and the Home Depot and the Dick's Sporting Goods, those are actually what we call pick and pack orders. Those orders go into totes, and those are actually delivered by whatever the carrier that particular customer desires to have, like a FedEx or a UPS truck. That product actually doesn't come from our warehouse. It's Vistar supplied through a pick and pack regional warehouse that is located in Illinois.
Okay, but my question was, you said there'll be 40 vehicles in, 40 vehicles out. How big are these vehicles?
Our
Are they
trucks,
panel trucks or are they?
no, our trucks are all 53-foot refrigerated trailers.
Okay.
And most of the delivery vehicles that come into us are full trailers. They're full
All right, fine.
48,
All right, fine.
52-foot tractor trailers.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just a quick question. Just a quick question. Why this particular area, not some other area that's not in this area, that where you wouldn't have to go through a conditional rezoning or a special use? Why this particular area?
Good question. So, we, like all companies, we go through a bid process, and our job is to try and find the best fit for us. One of my real key conditions was I did not want to move very far from where we are located. We are very ideally located. When we look at the base of our customers and where the majority of them are, we have to determine, okay, logistically, our number one expense is miles and hours to support those miles. And as we picked and looked at the different proposals and then plotted out, we have the ability in our computer to take each home location and say, what does this do for our mileage based on our current customer base? And that's really one of the reasons why.
Okay. Ms. Roscoe?
More so on a comment from the planning commission side of it, when you were there, you addressed the fact that you needed to grow to about 100 employees, which means you need about 40 employees, almost ASAP is what you were stating.
I could use 5
And
now.
that you also made the comment that, any Romulus resident that wants to put an application in and passes, the screening and whatever you do for normal employment, you'd be more than happy to hire.
Absolutely.
And so I just wanted to stress that point, that could be, home for 40 residents here if they so chose to be.
Yes.
So, and I like the fact that the mayor brought up, I was going to bring up the fact that you own your trucks, because that is a big issue with the council as to having control of your drivers and where they're going and how they're going and how they're driving.
And I might add that we have our local app, 130 with Vistar Michigan, is one of the absolute safest fleets in the entire company.
Ms. Williams?
Thank you.
Just to speak on what Councilwoman Wadsworth just said, Amazon own a lot of their trucks, 18-wheelers, and their drivers are still doing as they please. My concern, because I live off of Ecorse Road, I see that traffic all the time. Sometimes it gets so hectic that I have to go to the other exit, which is exit out of my subdivision to Wayne Road, because that traffic is terrible. You have a school right there, not far from Vining, charter school. You have two subdivisions right there, then you have some further down. I just don't think, not so much your company, but more trucks and not to be able to guarantee that traffic is not gonna end up where it shouldn't end up. And Ecorse Road is already in bad shape, so, I just don't think that your company or you yourself can guarantee us that the trucks will go a certain route, because Amazon said the exact same thing, and they're all over the place.
And I can't speak to how they manage their company.
I'm just saying.
I can tell you how we
And
manage
they own a
ours.
lot of their trucks, and the drivers actually work for Amazon and they're driving Amazon trucks. So it's not just because they're, subcontractors and they're driving their own trucks. These are workers that drive Amazon trucks, Amazon own them, and they're all over the place.
And again, to my point, my job specifically is to make sure that we are operating as efficiently as possible. And when I look at our customer base, there's Other than the two customers I mentioned on e-course, there would be no reason why I would allow a driver to go any way but down to 94 directly, because he's gonna be wasting my time, my gas, and my labor hours.
Mr. Abdo, then the
The
mayor.
excuse Amazon gives us is that Vining Road is not in the GPS system yet. They had also promised before, because I brought it up, that there would be signs outside, you know, going out of their facility. I've yet to see a sign there, and I've looked. You know, trucks, please take Vining Road. That's something they promised, we never got. And those are things which why I have concern. My other thing is, it was said that you were going to do something more with the landscaping in lieu of something else. I can't remember what he said. How do we have any guarantee that it's gonna be maintained? You know, I mean, the picture looks great, but is it, you know, do we have something that says you're gonna maintain that place? Because, or if not, it's just gonna be a warehouse that, like Amazon, that doesn't look that good. So that's my concern, maintenance of the building, maintenance of the grounds, and just letting you know why the Amazon is not using Vining because of the GPS. I mean, to me, that's something that should be able to be corrected by signage up there. And perhaps you can do that.
And I think I'll speak to that.
Mayor, you want to say
I
something?
just want to
before
comment on the issue of enforcement's really on the local government. We didn't have an exact promise from Amazon. We did have some issues with Amazon, and we've had to do some enforcement. Some of them are their own trucks and drivers, some are contracted. For example, the issue we had with them stacking on Vining was because Amazon's policy is they wouldn't allow those trucks on their property because they weren't their trucks. So we had to do some enforcement there. I can tell you that if we get a truck route from this company, then it's up to the city. We'll enforce it, and we'll communicate with them, letting them know if they're varying from it. We did not have that from Amazon, and it has been a little bit bumpy getting them to comply. But I can tell you that this is not an Amazon. This is much different, and I think I'll let him get into the building issues and the maintenance issues, but I just wanted to speak to the enforcement piece. If we know the routes, it makes it really easy with 40 trucks in and out. Amazon was not that scenario. They didn't present it that way, and it has been tougher to enforce, but we have had some luck with that. Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Webb.
I believe the gentleman is gonna speak on this. In our meeting, I did suggest the signage out there, and we sort of agreed, because it's a state, we could get the signage from the state that the 18-wheelers or whatever weight they are or size would not go down Wick Road, that they would go straight from your building to 94. Is that correct?
Yes, may I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, that is absolutely correct. We were just talking about that now. We will absolutely put in the agreement that we have to maintain the landscaping, and we will put in the agreement that we have to put a sign as well. So signage as well. So we're more than happy to do those sorts of things. We think that this is gonna be a much different experience than Amazon. This is a company who really controls the reins of their trucks and their facility. As I said, they've been our tenant for 14 years. They wanna be in Romulus for a 15-year lease. So this is a significant relationship in this general area, and this is something that Larry, all the way down, has said absolutely we will accomplish for you.
Any other questions?
One other question. As far as, and you're the first company that's ever came here and said that you really can control your trucks. I mean, other than looking which way they turn, you have a GPS to look at where they went, or some type of a look?
We actually review all of our routes at the end of the day when we take their lives, the lives picked out, and we have a breadcrumb where they went. So that would be, now, honestly.
Can you come up to the podium, please?
So at the end of every route, the driver checks in, and all of our drivers are on logs, DOT logs. they check in, we get their route summary, and it shows where they went, what their miles were, and we get a breadcrumb report that shows what route they ran. And it really is, it's like a 1-minute exercise for my transportation manager to look at it and say, well, that's the route that I had planned, and that's the route that the guy ran. Well, why did he do that? And it generates questions. So we have that kind of control every single day on every single route.
And it's important for me to vote for this, knowing that those trucks are gonna be under control, and they're not going down Wayne Road or past subdivisions. I mean,
There would be no reason.
nothing is perfect. I understand that.
So you saying that the products, I'm not for sure if it was you or the other gentleman, most of your products is coming from where?
It comes from all the names you know, Frito, Kellogg's, General Mills, Pepsi, Coke. We buy from the manufacturer. We do not manufacture anything on site. We're a true middleman.
Okay.
We bring full pallets in, and then our guys break those down into individual case orders.
Everything is purchased here in the United States. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, I don't think anything's outside the U.S. that I know of.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, not that I know of.
It's not that you know of.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any supplier, because we'd have to clear customs, which I've never had to do that, so I'm not aware of anything that we've ever received that was not from a U.S. manufacturer.
Well, you mentioned the dollar store. Well, a lot of the stores, they're buying big shipments from other countries.
But again, we only do the food that's in the freezer and the cooler. We don't do any of the stuff in the front of the store, none of that at all. They actually have their own captive distribution system. And in fact, that distribution system is so captive that they don't have refrigerated trailers. So in the summertime, we have to handle all of their chocolate for them for the front of the store because it has to stay under refrigeration. But we don't handle any of their dry goods.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Ms. Abdo.
So I just want to reiterate, you are willing to put in writing that you will control the truck traffic through internal policing,
Well, that would
and
be something that Tony would negotiate with, yeah.
and that you will maintain the ground. Thank you.
One question I have, what type of jobs do you offer? What type of jobs, I'm sorry?
So my fleet drivers are all Class A CDL drivers. My warehouse guys are really just warehouse qualified. They have to be able to operate machinery in a warehouse environment. My office staff is, basic GED, high school diploma. I have a small executive staff. It's really, we're not a real large company. Most of our labor is in the fleet and in our warehouse receiving and selector staff.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Can you speak in kind of direct?
They do have illustrations to show you. You had asked what additional they're doing, so they have that illustration if you'd like to see it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? Finish, okay.
And do we want to do our motions? Because I'll make the first motion. First reading of the zoning map amendment and associated conditional rezoning and development agreement for RZ-2020-001. Get support?
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Ms. Talley. First reading of the zoning map amendment, association conditional rezoning and development agreement for RZ 2020-001. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Ms. Webb?
Yes, with a question.
Okay.
I really wanted to see the presentation, Celeste. Could we still see it after the vote?
You want to see it
Why
before
don't we
the
see
vote?
it
Or
before the vote's on?
you want to see it before the vote?
Yeah, that's what I thought we would do, but
Let's see it before the vote.
Yeah.
Give a quick overview.
Okay.
What I was planning to do, and then. So just so you know, on the architectural, as you saw up here, that's gone through several iterations with staff and planning commission. I think everybody so far has been really happy with the architecture. And then Mike will walk you through the overall site, as well as the enhanced landscaping that you see along Smith Road that's going to block the docks which face east. Go ahead, Mike.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Mott with PEA 2430 Rochester Court, Troy, Michigan. As part of the development, as they brought up, the overall property is 60 acres, but we're looking at 14.85 for the PFG site. The building itself, 165,200 square feet, 28 truck docks, 30 trailer spaces. All truck entrance will be to the east driveway. Employee traffic will be to the west driveway. We have provided for emergency vehicle circulation around the building, but no trucks will be exiting through this. This will only be for emergency vehicles only. And as part of this, we'll have a full-size detention basin that'll be sized for the entire 60 acres. So we'll have that all built at this time. That'll be Wayne County's 100-year storm requirements. We've already verified we have sewer and water capacity for the facility. The one issue that's been brought up is the screening of the truck docks coming through. So going through Planning Commission, the developer has agreed to extend the berm all the way down Smith Road to block that out. So with that, we did a kind of quick visual interpretation. So if you're looking directly at the site coming through, you know, you'll have approximately 5-foot high berm with the landscaping on. If you're driving down Smith Road coming towards the site, looking back up through here, again, we'll have approximately 5-foot berm with the landscaping blocking. So the trees and landscaping will be above the dock door, so you won't be seeing those. So that's kind of a quick overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the layout or anything in that part.
I have a question.
Ms. Abdo?
Is the detention pond fenced?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions. Go ahead. Okay, let's try this again. It's a motion by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Ms. Talley. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
No.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the next motion for approval of special land use SLU-2020-001, PFG Romulus for 165,200 square foot food distribution facility.
Support.
It's been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Mr. Wadsworth, for approval of special land use SLU 2020-001, PFG Romulus for a 165,200 square foot food distribution facility. Ms. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
No.
Ms. Webb,
Yes.
Ms. Talley,
Yes.
Ms. Abdo.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Next, we have number 4, Chairperson's Report.
Tonight, we didn't have any special meetings tonight. Only report I have is, I know it's a very important day tomorrow, so it's voting time tomorrow, so exercise your vote and so we can move forward. With that, that's gonna conclude the chairperson's report.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept your report.
Support.
It's been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Ms. Talley, for approval of the chairperson's report. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved. Thank you.
Number 5, we have the Mayor's Report.
Evening, City Council, Treasurer, Deputy Clerk, and audience. Tonight, I got a quote from Tom Peters, kind of ties in. If a window of opportunity appears, don't pull the shade. And I think, I want to thank council for their approval on that. This food distribution facility you'll be proud of, and I look forward to the jobs and the new development, the unabated development in that region. No video tonight. I do have some action items, though, before you. If we could move on to that. The first one before you is item A. What we have is a request or recommendation from Kevin Kraus, Director of Emergency Management, and our legal counsel. The request is to concur with the administration, authorize the mayor and clerk to extend the attached billing service agreement with Acumed Billing, Inc. for the insurance billing and collection of fire and EMS activities with the Romulus Fire Department. That's for a 3-year period. Those funds have been verified and available out of the public safety contractual account.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. I have a question.
Support.
Been motion by Mr. Wadsworth, supported by Ms. Abdo, for professional services contract, EMS and fire bill. Discussion, Mr. Wadsworth.
If I can, Mayor,
Yes.
Kevin, well, my question is, a taxpayer, a homeowner, and a resident of a city does not get billed for any of these services.
So we are required, under Medicare, Medicaid laws, to bill certain services, according to your, whatever your insurance is.
Fine,
So
okay.
everyone has to be billed at least their copay or their deductible according to their insurance policy. After that, it's just whatever the insurance, company pays, and the rest is written off.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Webb.
Director Kraus. This contract is for 3 years. When did it expire?
So, it expired in beginning, I think, January 26th, was the first 3-year contract we had. We had a good working relationship with Acumed. We were happy with it. When we first entered into the first agreement, we had no historical data of transporting, because that's when we first started transporting up. With the historical data that we've been able to establish with the number of runs that we've completed, we were able to renegotiate the percentage that we actually pay Acumed. So it's a decrease in the overall percentage. We'll be able to capture more of that revenue to the fire department.
But I like that, I think it's 2% on one item, 6% on another.
6% overall for
6%
EMS
overall.
and fire billing, yep. And that's
okay.
down over the course of the 3-year contract, with some other modifications in there we did with software and stuff. It's about a 15% savings over the course of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
John, I have a
Thank you.
question.
Yes, Ms. Abdo.
So if a person has no insurance, they are not going to be billed?
They will be billed, it'll go through the billing cycle, and at the end of the billing cycle, it gets written off. As long as they are a Romulus resident. It's different for non-resident versus resident, because as a resident, you're a taxpayer.
So the resident can be
Correct.
written off, okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Tally?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, council. The next item, there's 2 different motions required. This is also a recommendation from Kevin Kraus, Director of Emergency Management, and Gary Harris, Purchasing Director. The first request is to concur the administration and award bid ITB 18/19-20. That's to the only responsive and responsible bidder, Phoenix Safety Outfitters, for turnout gear for the amount of $2,298 per set.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Webb.
I'd like to make that motion to concur with administration and award the bid.
Support.
Been motion by Ms. Webb, supported by Ms. Roscoe, for the ITB 18/19-20 bid. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Webb.
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Tally.
Yes.
Ms. Abdo.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, council. The second one's for the maintenance plan. So there's a request to concur with administration and authorize the utilization of the Phoenix Safety Outfitters Maintenance Plan at a fixed rate price for the annual inspection service at a cost of $110 per set for the hazardous care program, $220 per set for the complete care program, to be renewed annually for the life of the turnout gear.
Yes, Ms. Webb.
So make that motion to concur with the administration and authorize the utilization of Phoenix Safety Outfitters maintenance plan.
Support.
Been motion by Ms. Webb, supported by Ms. Roscoe, to concur with administration and authorize the utilization of Phoenix Safety Outfitters Maintenance Plan. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Webb,
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Tally,
Yes.
Ms. Abdo.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, council. The next recommendation is from Julie Albert, Director of Assessing and Financial Services, and Mary Druyer, the DDA and TIF Director, and Kathy Hood, Assistant DPW Director, along with Gary Harris, our Superstar Purchasing Director. And this request is to concur with administration and award RFP 19/20-14 That's going to be for a 2-year maintenance contract for landscaping, irrigation, Merriman Road Special Assessment District to be the most responsive and responsible contractor. Commercial Ground Services is the name of the company. An estimated amount, $60,000 per year, not to exceed the budgeted amount, which has been verified and budgeted out of that special Merriman Road Special Assessed Fund.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we award the contract to Commercial Ground Services.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Abdo, supported by Ms. Talley, for the award of the landscaping irrigation system 2-year maintenance contract. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Abdo,
Yes.
Ms. Talley,
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth.
Yes.
Ms. Webb,
Yes, yes.
Chair votes yes.
Thank you, Council. The next recommendation comes from Roberto Scapitici, our DPW Director and Legal Counsel, also Gary Harris, Purchasing Director. The request before you is to concur with the administration and award ITB 19/20-15 to the most responsive and responsible bidder, Cadillac Asphalt LLC, and that's for the 2020 HMA paving program for the Department of Public Works and Tifa. The total amount, $672,717.75. And because it does hit the 2 different funds, those are listed both from Tifa and DPW's budget.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve bid 19/20-15 for the 2020 paving project.
Support.
And I have a question also.
Okay. It's been motioned by Mr. Wadsworth, supported by Ms. Webb, for the ITB 20/20-15, 2020 HMA paving project. Discussion, Mr. Wadsworth.
If I could, to Roberto, is there a list of what roads are going to be hit with this, or can we get one? Or
Council. It's going to be Beverly Road, west of Wayne Road, and
Okay.
it's going to be a little loop around Beverly, which is Joan, Irma, and Hunt Street. So it's in the north side of the city.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Roberto.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, Council. The last action item I have for you tonight also is a recommendation from Roberto Scapitici, DPW Director, Stephen Hitchcock, Legal Counsel. And this request is to concur the administration and authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the attached tri-party agreement between the City of Romulus, MDOT, and subcontractor agreement with Rowe Engineering, and that's to perform construction services on Beverly Road Phase 1. The city's local share will be approximately $295,400, funds verified and secured out of capital outlay for major roads.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion for the Beverly Road Phase 1 contract agreement.
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Ms. Williams, for the Beverly Road Phase 1 contract agreement. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Votes yes, motion approved.
Thank you, Council. That concludes
Thank
my
you.
report.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, under the clerk's report, I'd like to introduce a message from our city clerk, Ellen Craig Bragg, regarding tomorrow's election.
Good evening, everyone. Well, tomorrow is the presidential primary election, which will be a very busy day, not just here in Romulus, but all over the state of Michigan. The polls open at 7 o'clock a.m. and will close at 8 o'clock p.m. Here are a few updates and reminders when going to the polls tomorrow. Remember to bring your photo ID with you. If you don't have a Michigan driver's license or personal ID card, other acceptable forms of photo ID include an out-of-state driver's license or personal ID card, federal or state government-issued ID, including a U.S. passport and military ID, student ID from a high school or accredited institute of higher education, or a tribal ID. Voters without acceptable photo ID may complete an affidavit. Good news, schools will be closed tomorrow. Therefore, voters at the middle school will enter through the front entrance of the building. Voters at Barth, Hell Creek, and Romulus elementary schools will enter through the outer gymnasium doors. Signs will be posted directing you to the appropriate entrances to your precincts. For individuals who are not registered and would like to participate in tomorrow's election, you can register tomorrow, but you must register at the clerk's office. You will need photo ID and one of the following documents for residency verification: a Michigan driver's license and/or personal ID card listing your current address, a current utility bill, bank statement, paycheck, government check, or other government document. Lastly, all absentee ballots are due tomorrow by 8 p.m. If you haven't turned in your AV ballot, a drop box is conveniently located in front of City Hall that you can drive up to and deposit your ballot. For questions, you may contact the clerk's office at 734-942-7540. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the polls. And until next time, remember, your vote matters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Under the clerk's report A, City Clerk Ellen Craig Bragg requests a special meeting study session on March 23rd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. to discuss cemetery rules and regulations.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we schedule a special meeting, study session on March 23rd, 2020, at 6:30 to discuss cemetery rules and regulations.
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Abdo, supported by Mr. Wadsworth, to schedule a special meeting study session on Monday, March the 23rd, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. to discuss the cemetery rules and regulations. Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
And thank you. Under B, request from Treasurer Stacy Page to hold a special meeting study session on March 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. to discuss the quarterly investment report.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we schedule a special meeting study session on March 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. to discuss the quarterly investment report.
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Abdo, supported by Ms. Talley, for study session request from Treasurer Stacy Page to discuss our quarterly investment report on Monday, March the 23rd, 2020 at 7 p.m. Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Talley?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, motion approved.
That concludes the clerk's report. Next, we have number 7, Treasurer's report.
Good evening, council, mayor, deputy clerk, and audience. Thank you for the approval, and I do not have anything under my report. And good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have public comments, and this is the portion of the agenda for those of the audience who would like to address City Council. The rules to address City Council can be found on the back of the meeting agenda. If you would like to address City Council, please raise your hand, and after being acknowledged by the chairperson, approach the podium and state your name and address. Please note, you have 3 minutes to speak, and any additional time would be upon the consent of the chairperson. I do not have any cards to request to speak under public comments.
Yes, comments from the audience. Please step forward, please.
Yes, my name is Barbara Stanis, and I live at 33182 Bay Hill Drive, Michigan. And I'm not quite sure of the protocol of all this. I have a question, which the Dog and Pony Show left, so they can't answer. All right. They've got a 165,000 square foot warehouse. And they were real quick to tell you they've done a traffic study with their 40 trucks. But a 165,000 square foot warehouse is awfully large, and it's gonna take a lot of trucks to fill that. And I didn't hear anything in that presentation about, not just to fill it initially, but to keep it filled, how many trucks those are. All right? So, can any of you answer that? Was that in your information?
40 in, 40 out was the total they gave, so.
That's their trucks.
That's
That's
bringing-
not the vendors that are bringing stuff into this 165,000 square foot.
So I understood as their trucks bringing things in, break them down, ship them out. That's what they presented.
So they're going to every one of their vendors, picking up product and bringing it back.
No, they
That's
have
what
other
you're saying.
warehouses, as he said. So my understanding is those come from other facilities to that. They break them down, put them in special orders, and then go back out with their own trucks.
Okay, so there will only be 40 a day coming in. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? No more comments from the audience? Close that part out.
Number 9 is unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman, I have one, if I could, under unfinished, a correction. That last item, Roberto brought up a clarification for the Beverly Road. What I'd like to do on that, because it was a tri-party agreement with Romulus, MDOT, and Row, and he mentioned that the Row is not in place yet. So I'd like to ask you if you could, I hate to do that, just to be accurate, if we could rescind that motion and redo that motion just with the city of Romulus and MDOT. Would that be okay? That would be better reflect the action that's before you tonight. So that's my request.
Okay.
Which one was that? On Beverly. Which item was that, Mayor?
That was E,
E.
the Beverly Road Phase 1 contract agreement.
5E, you said
And I hate to do that, but I'd rather be accurate with the way it's reflected. I know you would also.
Who made the motion?
I did, I think.
I think Celeste Roscoe.
Yeah, I did.
Well, then Celeste should change it.
What is that?
For the Beverly Road Phase 1 contract agreement? 5E. I will rescind my motion,
Okay.
make that motion again to exclude Row Engineering, is that correct?
We have to vote to
No, just make it in.
Then
Oh,
do the new
I'm
one.
sorry.
Sorry.
I'll make the motion to rescind my motion.
I'll support it.
Been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Mr. Wadsworth for to rescind the vote. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Tally?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Motion, chair votes yes, motion approved.
And so my request would be then the motion would read to concur with the administration and authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the attached agreement between the city of Romulus and MDOT, and that would be to perform the construction services for Beverly Road Phase 1, city's local share still $295,400. Thank you.
Chair, I'll make that motion with the correction the mayor just read for the Beverly Road Phase 1 contract agreement.
Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Roscoe, supported by Ms. Tally, for information the mayor just presented. Ms. Roscoe?
Yes.
Ms. Tally? Yes. Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, the motion approved.
Thank you very much, council.
Any other unfinished business?
Number 10, new business. And number 11 is warrant.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, we pay warrant 20-5 in the following amounts. General Fund, $53,998.28. Major Street Fund, $3,001.27. Local Street Fund, $3,293.74. Public Safety Fund, $28,515.37. Cable TV, $286.73. Garbage and Rubbish Collection Fund, $293.48. Michigan Indigent Defense Fund, $27,420. 911 Service Fund, $10,913.49. NARC forfeiture for the state, $810.66. Library Fund, $7,065.01. DDA, $3,255.06. Tifa District 2, $27,872.78. Vining Road Extension, E-Course Construction, $540. Water and Sewer Fund, $151,465.09. Motor Vehicle, $74,799.08. Retiree Insurance Benefits, $188,349.87. Revolving fund, $4,574.60. Current tax, $155,912.22. Payroll fund, $219,182.02. Total of all funds, $961,548.75. Support.
Been motioned by Ms. Abdo, supported by Ms. Tally. Pay warrant number 20-5 for $961,548.75. Ms. Abdo?
Yes.
Ms. Tally?
Yes.
Ms. Roscoe? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Wadsworth?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, warrant number 20-5 will be paid.
And number 12 is communication.
All right. Ms. Tally?
Yes, a couple of quick things. Had a lot of things going on in the city. I participated and had a lot of fun. Me and Councilman Wadsworth did the celebrity reading at the library, which is all month long. Yeah, reading month of March. You did a great job, Councilman Wadsworth. I took my cues from you. I just wanted to let you know.
That's because I had more pictures in my book than you did.
It was so much fun. So I think, Celeste, you're coming down the pipeline.
I am.
The reading. So I
I
just
am.
encourage people. It was just a lot of fun being with the kids. And then on, I think it was Friday, I hung out with my colleague, Virginia. Not yet. Councilwoman Webb at the chili cook-off at the Artesian. I don't know if anybody got there earlier, but I kind of came in at the tail end and we kind of hung out, had some good chili, had a good time. I want to shout out to Laura Brown, who was one of the residents that was there, and Brenda Tom, two residents that we met and had a really good time with that night at the chili cook-off. So good job to Artesian, and we just need to support our local businesses. So just shout out to a great event. And then lastly, finally, the St. John's Lodge had their bowling event yesterday. A lot of fun. Councilwoman Virginia want to keep saying she don't know how to bowl, but you know that's kind of questionable at this point. But that's okay. We'll go with the story. Just a lot of fun hanging out with her. Miss Abdo was there, Miss Webb, Stacy was there. Just a lot of fun, just fellowship, bonding, and laughter. So just great events going on. Well, St. John's Lodge. But anyway, St. John's is in our city. But a lot of good stuff going on in our city, a lot of things to participate in. So keep abreast and participate. Thank you.
Any other communications?
And number 13 is adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
It's been motioned by Mr. Wadsworth, supported by Ms. Roscoe for adjournment. Mr. Wadsworth, Ms. Roscoe,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Webb,
Yes.
Ms. Tally,
Yes.
Ms. Abdo.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, we are adjourned. Thank you.